Where does stay relentless come from?
The relentless part?
Have you seen the latest episode of Modern Wisdom with Jesse James West? Well, in today's video, we're going to be analyzing the podcast and showing you the differences and comparisons between me and Jesse and how I even met him in the first place. Let's go. First things first, I think it's important to note that I've known Jesse personally for over 2 years. I met him in Times Square when he made a call out. Since then, I've linked up and gone to a couple of his meetups, I think like 4 or 5 times at this point. And it's safe to say that he is my favorite fitness creator, and he is it's a mix between him and a few other channels that I kind of model where I go with my content. Before we start this video and we break down the podcast, I think it's important to talk about the distinctions between me and Jesse. Now, Jesse grew up in a two-parent household with loving parents. Shout out to Karen. And I did not. And despite him growing up in New Jersey and me, in the suburbs, and me growing up in Brooklyn in the hood, there's so many similar characteristics: high energy, extroverted, not afraid to do things in public, chasing dreams. And when I saw that in Jesse, that's really what led me to support him the way that I do, because I really didn't see any other fitness creators that aligned with what I was doing in that way. So a lot of things that were talked about in this podcast really spoke to me, and we're going to get into those things right now. In this part of the podcast, Jesse talks about his process that he went through with quitting lacrosse. This was something that was really big to him, something that was important, and it was a big milestone for him to leave this segment or this chapter of his life.
We have a great relationship now, but there was definitely rocky times with him and being on the lacrosse team where I was so good at just freaking being uncomfortable. I was like, this is my life. I genuinely thought I was just a depressed person. Like, for years, I was like, I'm just depressed. Like, I don't think I'm ever going to escape this. And that's just, I have anxiety and depression. That's me. But then when I was about 18, I realized that I am the only one, like let's say it's David Goggins. I'm the only one that can carry the damn boat. Okay. And that boat is going to crush me if I don't decide to do something with it. Yeah. So I'll never forget. I remember calling my mom and I was like, Mom, and she's a very opposite of my dad, where my dad's tough love. She's very soft, nurturing love. And I was like, I can't handle this. I'm making the decision. I'm quitting. We got in on mid-August, and by October I was like, this is the worst feeling I've ever felt in my life. I have to be done, or this is gonna end badly in a year. And I consciously picked up that fucking boat and was like, I'm out. And it was a very empowering and it was a very strong spiritual awakening of inner peace, of making this decision for yourself. So for anyone that's listening and trying to understand in their scenario, you're the only one that can pull yourself out and save yourself. Truly, there might be people that can help you. You can lean on, you can count on them always, talking you off the ledge or whatever it might be, helping you. But at the end of the day, there's one person that can truly make a decision and do things for you, and it's yourself. And you have no choice but to make those decisions, as uncomfortable as they are and scary as they are. You have to do these things and make those decisions that are tough.
The parallel to that when it comes to me is completely different, but it's a similar parallel when I was making music. I made music from 2005 to 2010, and that was my first dream. It's the one thing that I really wanted to make happen. There was nothing else in the world that I wanted to make happen than music. Just like Jesse initially had visions of him being huge in lacrosse, and it wasn't until my son was born that I actually chose to leave making music, and I never looked back. Now, the next distinction or similarity that I want to make is when Jesse made the choice to save himself from how he was feeling while he was going to college. He said he was anxious, he was feeling depressed, and when he was saying that, I can literally take myself back to when I was sitting in that cubicle working at Progressive as a claims adjuster feeling that same exact way?
Passion in this other thing, and you're like, I'm gonna make this happen. I think being so fearless in my decision of leaving a scholarship, it was something that I didn't even realize I was doing. But I think it's where I make mistakes in life and have to learn the most, which is always good to learn from your mistakes, but where I make the most mistakes is when I'm in fear, when I have fear, and it alters my decision, or like puts these glasses on my face that I don't even know they're on, and I'm doing things and I'm acting a certain way, and I'm like, wow, I messed up pretty bad here. This decision was so stupid because I was afraid of XYZ.
I worked for Progressive after I finished college, and I got my college degree, but I had no idea what the real job market had in store for me. I got a job with Progressive, and initially I loved it. They were paying me, they were gonna give me a starting salary, making more money than I've ever made in my entire life. I had no idea the responsibility and the dedication and the amount of energy it was going to require from me to do that job. I'm talking sometimes 10-hour days, 12-hour days. You're just bound to your desk, and that just builds so much anxiety. I can distinctly remember days being in bed, literally dreading my life, not wanting to get up. And when Jesse talked about how he felt going through college for that one semester, that's exactly how I felt when I was working for Progressive for that first year. So I think the biggest lesson for that, coming from me, not from Jesse's experience, is coming out of school or coming out of any situation where you're going to try to adapt. Don't put yourself in a situation financially where you're going to be a slave to whatever it is you're doing. What do I mean by that? So if you're going to get a new job that you're not certain of what it's going to be or how you're going to feel, don't start making expenses and buying things that are going to keep you in a financial hold where now you're a slave to that job. So for me, I had a Honda Accord. It was my first car, brand new, leased, but now I had insurance and a car note to pay every single month. And when you do that, you almost feel like a slave to your lifestyle, and you do not want that. So that's my biggest piece of advice.
How do you overcome the judgment of others if you don't have the support of people around you?
Yeah, so I have like so many scenarios in my head of like sort of screwed up things that people would do or say or what they were. I'll explain them. So when I was, let's just say 15 to 17, I don't exactly remember exactly what age, but I started my fitness page, which is now my Instagram, and it was called Jesse James Fitness. And obviously I said I had aspirations of being a YouTuber, and back then also, additionally, it was not as normal to try to start a YouTube, and they see this and they see me trying to do it. I have like a few thousand maybe followers, and honestly a lot of them are probably just from lacrosse. And I go to the pep rally of like freshmen, sophomore, junior, seniors. Everybody's at their own bleacher. They're doing tug of war, doing challenges, battle of the classes it was called. And I'm a freshman at this time, I'm remembering now. And the seniors all chant, Jesse James Fitness, Jesse James Fitness. And I'm standing there and I'm like, shit, okay, I can do two things here. I can look down and just like admit defeat and like let them win. And I'm not like that at all. Or, I can keep my chin up. I can look at them. I can double bicep flex and say, what do you want? What do you want? So we were going out for tug of war, and that's when they were doing it. And I just look at them and I'm like, and I flex. In my head, my soul, I'm like, I'm panicking. I'm uncomfortable. I'm so embarrassed. Like, there's the girls behind you that you want to date, the friends that you're making and all this stuff. And like, I'm trying to be cool and whatnot. But I'm like, I can't let them see that. Like, it's a poker face that I got to keep on, because at least I can win that. And I feel like I kept doing that for so long. I really did like partially not give a fuck, but also you'll always give a fuck. I still give a fuck. I get a hate comment now. If I get enough of them, I'm still gonna give a fuck. I'm never not gonna give a fuck. If you don't care, that's just because you don't have a desire in this anymore.
So when it comes to proving others wrong, I had a different experience when it comes to this. Jesse had the experience of people teasing him in school. My experience was when I was sitting at that Progressive desk, I remember distinctly in a pool of cubicles. There was like 4 or 5 of us, and I said, I think I'm gonna go into the fitness industry. This is back in 2016. I think I want to be like, I want to go into fitness. I want to be a trainer. Like, I said this out loud, and the immediate response that I got from people was, oh, it's saturated. It's so hard. There's no way, there's no safety. And whereas the reaction that Jesse received was almost like malicious and intentional, the reaction that I got was out of fear. You can tell people were reacting to what I wanted to do based on the limitations that they had already preset in their own mind and the fears that they had for themselves. And I'm so glad that I didn't allow those fears to stop me, because who knows where I would be. I would be so fucking miserable if I stood in that job. There's no way I would have been able to sustain that lifestyle. So only you know how far you're willing to take the work, the energy, the effort to accomplish anything. And the amount of energy and effort and work that I've put into content, fitness, coaching is 10 times more than any of those people could have envisioned them doing themselves. I'm so glad that I didn't allow that their self-limitations. I'm glad I didn't allow it to stop me, and you shouldn't allow it to stop you. But at the same time, you should know your limits. You should know how far you're willing to take something. And if you know you're not willing to put in the actual work it takes to get to a certain level at a certain thing, don't bite off more than you can chew. That's just honest advice.
Presumably a lot of disappointment when the thing that he's worked on with you for nearly a decade goes like, pull the pin and just toss it out the window.
Because he thought this was the best for me. He thought, this is going to make Jesse successful. He's going to have security when he's older. Like this, it was out of love. It was just this love that was, I guess you could say, hurtful in a way and like a little toxic. I tell my mom and she's like, I'll talk to your father. They came to visit me at Lehigh during an alumni game. I've been there for about 3 weeks and I'm really fucking struggling, like very, very depressed. And I break down crying to her, just like, I can't keep it in. Like, and I start tearing up and I'm like, oh my God. And I look at her and I'm like, something's so fucking wrong. Like, I feel like I can't feel anything. I have no interest in like women right now. And my emotion of who Jesse was, like, I always wanted to go out and like talk to the girls. Didn't care at all. None of that. Social media, still doing it, but I was just like, fuck, man. Like my desire of everything is gone. The only thing I had that kept me sort of sane was lifting and music. And those are like 2 things that I like combined together, and it was my only safe space. And I remember leaving that Target, and when she drops me off, she told me the conversation. She looked at my dad and was like, you're not saying a word. He's leaving. You have no say. So shout out Karen to this fucking legend. And she's like, you have to accept this, and that's how it is, period. Broke down a massive barrier for myself that maybe I don't have to listen to everyone telling me to do things, and maybe I should just listen to myself.
It kind of goes back to what we just spoke about, because only you know how far you're willing to take things. So sometimes you got to put the screens down. You got to stop asking people for advice. Sit with yourself. Weigh the odds, weigh the positives, weigh the negatives, and ask yourself, is this what I really want? And if it's something that you really, really want, and you're willing to put everything and anything into it, fucking go after that thing, man, no matter what anybody says.
Instead of like just everything, and really like John had to become a new man and accept things, and I had to become a new man and learn that I have to say what I want in life, do what I want, and like you said, hold yourself. I have to advocate for myself at all times, because this is a saying that I stuck with. Do what you're meant to, not what you're supposed to. Everyone is always supposed to be doing something, but if you're not meant to be doing that, why the fuck are you doing it?
I love this saying so much. Do what you're meant to, not what you're supposed to. That was probably like the hardest line out of this podcast, because almost everyone that I know, almost everyone, especially in my family, are doing what they're supposed to do, not what they're meant to do. There's artists, there's singers, there's performers that are actual plumbers and they're working in McDonald's, and that's all good. You got to do what you got to do to pay the bills. But do not let what you have to do or supposed to do prevent you doing from what you're meant to do. Because by you doing the thing you're meant to do, the thing that naturally calls to you, that is going to be of service to someone else. Not only is it a disservice to you, but it's a disservice to, who knows, the tens, the 20s, the hundreds, or even the thousands of people that you could have affected by you doing what you were meant to do, because they were inspired or motivated or driven to do what they were meant to do. That was probably the biggest nugget right there. Another comparison between me and Jesse is that neither one of us are afraid to go outside of the norm. So a good example is when he talks about making the video, going to, I think it was Norway or Netherlands, and making the Viking video.
I'd advocate for myself that on my channel, it's me living my best life. Doing cool things that I have desires that I'm interested in. You know, I'm interested in Vikings. I'm gonna go freaking Norway, jump off a cliff with Vikings and eat and drink mead and do these cool things, because like that's something I've always wanted to do. I have a lot of fascination and stuff like that. And I always wanted to leave a subconscious message with my videos. Like, if you're not living life to the fullest, like, you are missing out on so much. And I hope that people can watch this and realize that you are worth that meant to life rather than that supposed to life. And I hope people can pursue their meant to eventually.
And the exact comparison is when I made the video with Gladiators NYC, because I've always loved medieval lifestyle, knights fighting, archery. I've always been obsessed with the Dark Ages. I'm a huge fan of George R. Martin and the world of A Song of Ice and Fire, which is a Game of Thrones for you people that don't know the books, only the show. And I'm not afraid to make content around that thing, even if I know only 100 people would like it. If it's true to you, do it. Do what you're meant to do, not what you're supposed to do. So as a fitness person, I'm supposed to always be cool, and fuck that, man. Do what comes naturally to you.
I think a lot of people weren't raised the way to have that, or they need to learn that in their 20s, 30s, 40s, whatever. And that's way harder than growing up thinking that. So I'm definitely like very blessed to have that intuitional belief in myself from like day one. And I think for those that may not relate to that, how I have that belief, it's one of those things that's where I think you need to realize there's things like the 9-to-5, and there's things like the entrepreneurial route. And I think it's really important for people to realize that it isn't always grass is greener on the other side. I think people need to realize also that there is just as much struggle in, I'm gonna do everything on my own, I'm gonna be an entrepreneur. You're working 24 hours, brother. Good luck. It's hard. 9-to-5, good luck. If I had to go to that, good luck. It's hard. It's hard on both ends of life. It's just a matter of almost like, what evil do you want to put your energy into?
What pain do you want to have to deal with?
Like, they see Goggins and they think, suffer, let's go. I'm gonna fucking get through this job. I don't care. And that makes them, maybe they get dopamine off of that. But you also could just input that same exact suffer and energy into maybe something that you have passion and drive for.
Advocate for yourself. Oh man, I've had such a hard time doing that in my life. I've allowed women, especially women, to like dictate what I do, to manipulate me, to make decisions that I probably wouldn't have made if left to my own devices. I've allowed family members to sway me. In those moments where you feel like, fuck man, I don't want to do this thing, but I'm feeling so pressured to. The only advice that I can really give, because it's hard when you're in the moment, the only advice I can say before you make a decision based on those times and based on those moments is try to eject yourself from the moment. If it's a conversation where a decision has to be made, try to pull yourself away. Hey, I gotta use the bathroom real quick. Take a second for yourself. Think about what you really want. And unfortunately, it takes a bit of bravery, because now if you're someone who fears confrontation, which I don't like confrontation, especially with women. I have this thing with confrontation and women, but you have to advocate for yourself, because if you keep making decisions based on what other people want for themselves and for you, you're never gonna get what you want. So that's probably my biggest advice when it comes to that.
I often think about role model deserts or sort of support deserts, places where someone is trying to do something a little bit different. Maybe they're not following the prescribed route that typically people from where they're from are doing.
Role model desert. I mean, when they were talking about this, I feel like they were speaking directly to me, because I grew up in an environment where I literally had zero positive, strong male role models. And I've had to adopt what I found on the internet as my philosophy, my values, my morals. A lot of that has been built off what I've watched men that I would think I want to be like. And it's unfortunate, you know, obviously when you grow up with a father like Jesse did, that is there to instill those values and morals and ethics from a young age, it comes a little bit more natural to you. And I'm not gonna lie, for me, it's been like walking with like rain and wind pushing against me. So instead of me walking with the rain, it's like the rain and the wind is like in my face, and I'm like trying to push, because everything that comes natural to me is to be lazy, to make excuses, to be a lesser version of what I want. And it's very hard when you grow up with not good parents. Let's just be honest. I did not have good parents. Not a good mother and not a father at all, you know? And, you know, my mother had me when she was 16 years old, so what do you expect? It's still no excuse. The biggest advice for anyone that exists in a role model desert is do what I did. Find people like Jesse. Find people like David Goggins. Find people like Jocko Willink. And, you know, just because you're older, it doesn't mean that you can't borrow values from someone else. Look at Jesse. Jesse's much younger than me, but sometimes I'll see something that he says that he was taught from his parents that no one ever taught me, and I can borrow that. I can use that. I can utilize that in my own life. So when I'm confronted with a situation where I have to make an ethical decision, now I can think, oh, what would David Goggins do? What would Jesse James West do? What would Jocko Willink do? So for anyone like me, that's probably my best advice on what to do.
Speaking of fat person going to the gym, you competed recently. What was that process like? What's it feel like to be that lean?
What does it feel like to be that lean?
So and the process of losing that much fat in such a short space of time.
So you look at like a bodybuilding prep, it's 16 weeks. I did mine in, let's say, 8. I'm always pretty lean. I never really bulk past like 15% body fat. The first week or two is, you know, like you're like, all right, it's tough, you're doing your cardio, whatever, maybe you're tired. But the last like 3 weeks were so tiring and like emotionally stealing in a way where I literally felt nothing. Like I was a corpse. You could look at me in the eyes and you could be like, you're thinking nothing right now. You have no emotion. And everyone experiences prep different. Some people look at it in a very beautiful way and they love seeing the changes in their body. For me, it was tough seeing the changes. Like looking back at photos, damn, I was shredded. But then in the moment, it's very odd because you look at yourself and you pinch the side of your body and I'm like, I'm not even that lean.
Dysmorphia is strong.
I'm so skinny right now. Like, I don't look like C-bum. I look stupid.
Fat bum.
Yeah, I'm posing and my legs aren't even touching. They're so skinny, you know? It's like you start really picking at all these negative things in your head. And if I wasn't making content around it, I think that definitely helped keep my mind off that sort of dysmorphic thought. And it was like, okay, we have a mission here. We're making awesome videos at the same time. I can focus on that more. But it took a huge toll on my relationship. I literally, like every single emotion, I just didn't have.
The last comparison I want to make is when Jesse James West did the bodybuilding show, because I literally did my bodybuilding show because I was inspired to by Jesse James West. And when he says stay relentless, like I take that shit to heart. When I saw him go through it, I was like, I wonder, could I do this? And I went through the experience, and lo and behold, in an NPC untested show, I won 3 medals in my first show. And that just goes to show you have all this built up anxiety, all this doubt about yourself, but unless you actually push yourself to do the thing, you'll never know if you'll be good at it. And now I know if I do another bodybuilding show, I'm gonna fucking kill it, natural or not. But I would never know that, and I would never have that confidence to do it if I never faced it with the ambiguity of not knowing of what the result would be. So just keep that in mind, You're not always gonna know what's on the other side, but that shouldn't stop you from finding out. That's really it, man. I really did this because the podcast spoke to me. There was moments in which I felt they were literally directly speaking to me, and who knows, maybe some of you guys that don't follow Jesse, that follow me, will watch this, and maybe something that I've gone through will speak to you. And if that's the case, please let me know in the comments, because there's so many people that are broken people. And I've been broken, and I'm still trying to piece myself together, And I want to help people, with my story, with my life. There's so many experiences that I've gone through that Jesse has never gone through and will never go through. And he can't speak to the people that have gone through similar things like me, like going through foster care, like being in a gang at 15 years old, being homeless, being a teenage father. Like, these are all experiences that are specifically unique to me. And there are hundreds, if not thousands of people that have gone through very similar situations. And if I keep my story to myself, and I keep my experiences to myself, and I keep how I overcame certain scenarios and situations to myself, I'm going to be a disservice not only to myself, but to the people that can utilize that information, that inspiration, that motivation to get over whatever they're going through. So if you're one of those people, listen, I'm here for you. Fuck your insecurities. That's my motto. That's what I live by. If there's something you want to do that naturally calls to you, you have to go and do it, despite what anybody says or despite what society thinks. I definitely encourage you to see the full podcast. I didn't cover everything. I just wanted to really go over the things that spoke to me directly. Yeah, if you want more videos like this, let me know in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, and as always, until next time, fuck your insecurities. Peace. Stay relentless.
How do you feel, bro? Exhilarating. Yo, it feels so fucking good. He's the man. Are you filming right now? Yeah. He's the man. He crushed it. You are the man, bro. Seriously, thank you for coming. You come to everything. Yeah, bro. Subscribe to him, all right? Thank you. The resilience this man has is insane. I love it.